The ship moved through the darkness between stars like a silver fish swimming through black water. Navigator Kethaval sat at his station, his four eyes watching the screens that showed him the universe. He was young for his species, only 80 years old, and he still felt wonder when he looked at the stars. The Kethri exploration vessel had been traveling for 6 months now. Their mission was simple: find new systems, make maps, report back to the Galactic Union. It was boring work, but Kethaval loved it. Every new star was a gift. Every planet was a mystery waiting to be solved. Navigator, the ship's computer said in its calm voice, I have detected an unknown stellar cluster at coordinates 773 by 421 by 990. Kethaval leaned forward. Unknown clusters were rare. The Galactic Union had mapped most of the galaxy over millions of years. Finding something new was like finding treasure. Show me, he said. The main screen changed. It displayed a cluster of stars that glowed with soft light. Kethaval counted at least 30 stars, maybe more. They were arranged in a strange pattern, almost like they had been placed there on purpose. Computer, why is this cluster not on our maps? The computer was silent for a long moment. This was strange. The computer never hesitated. Navigator Kethaval, I am now required to access the Forbidden Archives. Kethaval felt his blood grow cold. The Forbidden Archives were restricted. In his 5 years of service, he had never heard of anyone accessing them. Computer, explain. The coordinates you have requested fall within Zone Omega-7. This zone is classified under Protocol 0. I am now alerting Captain Vormesh. The bridge doors opened before Kethaval could respond. Captain Vormesh walked in, her old body moving slowly but with purpose. She was 300 years old, ancient by Kethri standards. Her scales had turned from bright blue to pale gray with age, but her eyes were still sharp. Navigator, she said, what have you found? A stellar cluster, Captain, unknown. The computer says it requires the Forbidden Archives. Vormesh stopped walking. Kethaval had never seen her look afraid before, but now, in this moment, he saw fear in her eyes. Show me the coordinates, she said quietly. Kethaval showed her. Vormesh stared at the screen for a long time. Then she closed her eyes and made a sound that Kethaval had never heard before. It was like a prayer, or maybe a curse. Computer, Vormesh said, confirm Zone Omega-7. Confirmed, Captain. Zone Omega-7, human territory. Access forbidden by order of the 17 founding species. The word hit Kethaval like a physical blow. Human. He had heard that word only once in his life, when he was a small child. His grandmother had spoken it in a whisper, late at night, when she thought he was sleeping. Humans are gone, his grandmother had said to his mother. They have been gone for 3,000 years. But we must never forget. We must never go looking. Some doors must stay closed forever. Now Kethaval understood his grandmother's fear. Captain, he said, his voice shaking, what are humans? Vormesh sat down heavily in her command chair. She looked older than she had looked just moments before. Every child in the galaxy learns one lesson about humans, she said. Just one. They are gone. Be grateful. Never seek them out. She paused. I had hoped I would die without ever speaking of them. But what happened? Why is their territory forbidden? Vormesh turned to look at him. Because 3,000 years ago, Navigator, the galaxy made a terrible mistake. We hurt them. We hurt them very badly. And they became something that we cannot understand. Something that we must never wake. The computer interrupted them. Captain, I am detecting a signal from within Zone Omega-7. Both Vormesh and Kethaval turned to the screen. A small light was blinking inside the Forbidden Zone. A distress signal. That is impossible, Vormesh said. No one goes into human territory. The signal is recent, Captain. It began broadcasting 3 days ago. The signal identification belongs to a Velkish salvage vessel. Kethaval knew the Velkish. They were criminals, pirates who searched for old technology to sell on black markets. They were greedy and stupid, but even they would not enter human territory. They went in, Vormesh whispered. Those fools went in. Captain, what do we do? Vormesh was silent for a long moment. Kethaval watched her struggle with something inside herself. He could see duty fighting with fear. We cannot ignore a distress signal, she finally said. That is the law of space. But we do not go in to save them. Then why? Vormesh stood up from her chair. She walked to the main screen and placed her hand on the glass, touching the glowing cluster of forbidden stars. 3,000 years ago, Navigator, the humans sealed themselves away. They created a barrier between their space and ours. They left warnings. They asked only to be left alone. She turned to face Kethaval. Those fools may have disturbed something that has been sleeping for 3,000 years. You think the humans are still there? I do not know what I think, but I know what I fear. Vormesh walked back to her chair. We go to the edge of the forbidden zone. We find out what happened to the Velkash ship, and we make sure that whatever is in there stays in there. Kethval felt his hands shaking as he entered the new course into the computer. The ship began to turn toward the forbidden stars. Captain, he said, my grandmother told me about humans once. She said the stars remember what happened there. What did she mean? Vormesh did not answer for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. The humans did not just win their war, Navigator. They changed the stars themselves. They wrote their pain into the fabric of space. The light that reaches us from that region still carries their memory. She paused. When we get closer, you will understand. The stars do remember, and what they remember is a warning. The ship moved forward into the darkness. Ahead of them, the forbidden stars waited. Kethaval stared at them on his screen, and for the first time in his life, he understood why his grandmother had been so afraid. The universe was old and full of mysteries, but some mysteries were dangerous. Some doors were closed for a reason, and they were about to open one of them. The journey to the edge of human territory took 3 weeks. 3 weeks of silence, 3 weeks of fear growing in Kethval's heart like a dark flower. Captain Vormesh had ordered the crew to stay calm. She had told them that they would only observe from a safe distance. But Kethval could see the truth in her eyes. She was scared. The old captain who had faced pirates and storms and the cold emptiness of space was scared. On the 15th day, they saw the first sign. Captain, Kethval said, his voice breaking, you need to see this. Vormesh came to his station. Other crew members gathered behind them, drawn by the strange tone in Kethval's voice. On the screen was a star, or what had once been a star. It was dead. Not like a normal dead star, cold and dark after burning out its fuel. This star had been unmade. It looked like someone had reached into space and pulled the star apart with giant hands. Pieces of it floated in patterns that should not exist. The light it gave off was wrong, like a scream frozen in time. What could do this? One of the crew members whispered. No one answered. As they traveled deeper toward the forbidden zone, they found more dead stars. Dozens of them, each one broken in a different way. Some were stretched into long shapes, some were compressed into tiny balls. Some had been scattered across light years like seeds thrown by an angry farmer. Computer, Kethaval said, access historical records about the Human Dominion War. Navigator, those records are restricted. I am authorizing access, Vormesh said. Her voice was tired. We need to know what we are walking into. The computer hummed for a moment. Then text began to appear on Kethaval's screen. The Kethari Dominion War began in Galactic Year 47, 332. The Kethari Dominion was the largest empire in the galaxy at that time. They controlled over 2,000 star systems and had enslaved 15 species. Kethaval read on, his horror growing with each word. Humans had joined the galactic community only 200 years before the war. They were seen as young and weak. Their technology was primitive compared to other species. The Dominion saw them as easy targets. The screen showed images now. Old images, damaged by time, but clear enough to understand. Human colonies burning, human families being separated, children pulled from their parents' arms. Humans in chains being marched onto ships. Humans being sold in markets like animals. The Dominion enslaved approximately 4 billion humans over a period of 50 years. The torture and killings were broadcast across the galaxy as entertainment. Other species watched but did not help. The Galactic Union declared that human affairs were not their concern. Kethaval felt sick. His species, the Kethari, had been part of the Union at that time. They had done nothing while an entire species was destroyed. What happened next, he asked. The computer continued. In galactic year 47382, something changed in humanity. Records from this period are incomplete. What is known is that humans began to exhibit abilities that had never been seen before. They could move objects with their minds. They could communicate across star systems without technology. They could change matter into energy and energy into matter. Vormesh put her hand on Kethval's shoulder. This is the part that my grandmother told me about, she said. The change. The change occurred over a period of 3 days. Every human, everywhere in the galaxy, transformed at the same moment. Scientists believe that the extreme trauma they experienced triggered something hidden in their genetic code, something that had been waiting for millions of years to awaken. The next words made Kethval's blood freeze. On the 4th day, the humans ended the war. How? Kethval asked. In one galactic day, every member of the Cathari Dominion military was killed. Every ship was destroyed. Every base was wiped from existence. The Dominion's homeworld was erased from space. No weapon was used that any species could identify. The humans simply reached across the stars and unmade their enemies. The screen went dark for a moment. Then one final sentence appeared. They did not understand what happens when you teach a species that the universe wants them dead. Silence filled the bridge. Kethval stared at the broken stars outside the ship. Now he understood what had happened to them. The humans had done this. They had torn apart stars as easily as a child tears paper. There, the computer said, I have located the Velkash salvage vessel. On the screen, a ship appeared. It was floating dead in space, all its lights dark. It looked undamaged from the outside, but something was clearly wrong. Life signs? Vormesh asked. None detected, Captain. We need to board it, Kethval said. We need to know what they found. Vormesh nodded slowly. Prepare a boarding team. But Navigator, understand this. We are looking for information only. If we find anything dangerous, anything at all, we leave immediately. The boarding team consisted of Kethval, 2 security officers, and a medic. They crossed to the Velkash ship in a small shuttle and entered through an emergency hatch. Inside, the ship was cold and dark. Their lights cut through the blackness like knives. They found the crew in the main control room. All 15 Velkash were dead. But they had not been killed by any weapon. They had died of fear. Their faces were frozen in expressions of absolute terror. Their eyes were open wide, staring at something that only they could see. What happened to them? The medic whispered. Kethval found a recording device still active in the captain's hand. He pressed play. The Velkash captain's face appeared on the small screen. He was screaming, tears running down his scaled face. They are watching us! They are inside my head! They are showing me what they did! I can see it! I can see what they did to the Dominion! We should not have come here! The Watchers see everything! They remember everything! The captain stopped screaming. His face went blank. Then he smiled, a horrible, empty smile. You should not have come here, he said in a voice that was not his own. But since you have, you might as well see the garden. Everyone should see the garden. Then the captain fell dead, and the recording ended. Kethval looked at Captain Vormesh through the communication link. Captain, he said, I think they want us to go deeper. Vormesh was silent for a long moment. Then we have no choice, she finally said. We must see what they want to show us. Outside the dead ship, the broken stars seemed to pulse with ancient light, and somewhere in the darkness ahead, the garden was waiting. The star system was impossible. Kethval stared at the screen, trying to understand what his eyes were telling him. 7 planets moved around a single star in perfect circles. Not orbits that wobbled and shifted over time, but perfect mathematical circles. The distances between them were exactly equal. The star itself burned with colors that did not exist in nature, purple and silver and a deep gold that seemed to glow from inside. This system was built, Vormesh said quietly. Someone created this. Humans, Kethval whispered. The 4th planet drew their attention. From orbit, they could see something covering an entire continent. At first, Kethval thought it was a city. Then he looked closer and realized it was something else entirely. "Those are statues," he said. "Billions of statues." They landed on the planet's surface near the edge of the garden. The air was breathable, the temperature comfortable. Everything about this place had been designed for visitors. Kethvil stepped out of the shuttle and stopped. His breath caught in his throat. The statues stretched to the horizon in every direction. Each one was perfect in every detail. Each one showed a member of the Cathari Dominion, the species that had enslaved humanity 3,000 years ago. But these were not heroic statues. They were not monuments to victory. Each statue showed a Dominion soldier in the moment of death. Kethvil could see the fear in their stone faces. He could see the moment when they realized what was happening to them. Some were reaching out with their hands as if trying to grab something solid. Others were falling backward. Others were screaming silently at the sky. "They were transformed," the medic said, her voice shaking. "They were turned into stone while they were still alive." Kethval walked among the statues. There were millions of them. Billions. An entire army frozen forever in their final moment of terror. "This is what happened to the Dominion," Vormesh said. She was walking beside him, her old face pale. "This is how humans ended the war. They did not simply kill their enemies. They made them into art." They walked for hours deeper into the garden. The statues changed as they went. First soldiers, then officers, then leaders. Near the center, they found statues of Dominion civilians too. Men, women, children, all frozen, all terrified. "They killed everyone," Kethval said. "Even children." Vormesh shook her head. "Look closer, Navigator." Kethval looked. The civilian statues were different. Their faces showed fear. Yes, but not death. They looked like people having a nightmare. And at their feet, small signs in every galactic language said the same thing. They woke up after 100 years. They were given new homes on the far side of the galaxy. They were not punished for the crimes of their soldiers. "The humans separated the guilty from the innocent," Vormesh said. "They punished only those who had hurt them." At the center of the garden stood a single figure. It was not made of stone like the others. It was made of a material that drank in light, so black that it seemed to pull at Kethval's eyes. A human. The statue showed a human standing with its arms at its sides, looking up at the stars. Its face was calm but sad. So very sad. At its feet was a plaque. Kethval read the words, and each one hit him like a hammer. "We asked only to live among the stars. You answered with chains and fire. So we became something that chains cannot hold and fire cannot touch. This garden remembers. We remember. The universe remembers. Go home. Tell your children. Tell your children's children. We are not gone. We are waiting to see if you have learned." Kethval fell to his knees, not from fear, but from something else. Shame. Deep and terrible shame for what his people had allowed to happen. Then the visions began. They came without warning. One moment Kethval was kneeling before the statue. The next moment he was somewhere else entirely. He was in a human body, seeing through human eyes. He saw his home burning. He saw soldiers laughing as they dragged his family away. He felt chains on his wrists. He felt the pain of the whip and the cold of the slave ships. He felt what it was like to be sold, to watch his children taken from him, to be worked until his body broke, to be thrown away like garbage when he was no longer useful. And he felt the change. He felt the moment when something inside him awakened, something ancient and powerful and full of terrible, righteous anger. He felt himself becoming more than human. He felt the minds of every human in the galaxy connecting together into one vast consciousness. And he felt the choice. In his vision, Kethval stood with the power of gods at his fingertips. He could destroy everything, every species that had watched and done nothing, every world that had turned away. He could burn the entire galaxy and start again. But he chose not to. Instead, he chose mercy. Terrible, painful mercy. He chose to punish only those who deserved it. He chose to withdraw, to heal, to wait and hope that someday the galaxy would learn to be better. The vision ended. Kethval was back in the garden, tears running down his face. Around him, the other crew members were also crying. They had all seen the same thing. "They showed us," the medic said through her tears. They wanted us to understand. Vormesh helped Kethavel to his feet. Her own eyes were wet. Now we know, she said. Now we know why the stars remember. The humans wrote their pain into the universe itself. Anyone who comes here will feel what they felt, will understand what they lost. Kethavel looked at the black statue of the human. They could have destroyed everything, he said. Why didn't they? A voice answered. It came from everywhere and nowhere, soft as a whisper but clear as a bell. Because destruction is easy. It is what the cruel do. We chose to be something else. We chose to remember. We chose to wait. The voice faded, leaving only silence in the endless garden of the punished dead. We need to leave, Vormesh said. We need to tell everyone what we have seen. But as they returned to their shuttle, Kethavel felt something watching them, something vast and patient and not unfriendly. The humans were still there, somewhere beyond normal space. They were watching, and they were hoping. The distress signals still called to them from deeper in the forbidden zone. After the garden, Kethavel wanted nothing more than to turn around and run, but the signal would not let them go. There are survivors, the computer reported. The signal includes life signs. 17 beings are still alive at the source location. Vormesh looked at Kethavel. The navigator could see the struggle in her eyes. Every instinct told them to leave, but 17 lives waited in the darkness ahead. We go, Vormesh said finally. We save who we can, and then we never come back to this place. The journey to the signal source took them through spaces that hurt to look at. Reality itself seemed broken here. Stars appeared in places where no stars should be. Distances changed without warning. Sometimes the ship seemed to travel backward in time, passing the same asteroid field 3 times in a row. The humans did this too, Kethavel realized. They changed the rules of space itself. Finally, they found the source of the signal. It was a station, but unlike any station Kethavel had ever seen. It seemed to be made of crystallized light, glowing softly in the darkness. It floated in a space that was not quite space, hovering between dimensions like a bubble caught between 2 pieces of glass. That is a doorway, Vormesh whispered, a door to wherever the humans went. They docked with the station carefully. Inside, they found the survivors of what had clearly been a secret mission. The markings on their uniforms told Kethavel everything he needed to know. These were not explorers or scientists. They were special agents of the Galactic Union's Shadow Council, the same council that had stood by while humans were enslaved 3,000 years ago. They had come here to steal. We wanted their technology, one of the survivors said. She was a Velmesh, a species known for their intelligence. But her eyes were wrong now. They looked at things that were not there. Her hands shook constantly. We thought we could take their secrets, learn how they changed matter and energy, learn how they broke the stars. What happened to you? Kethavel asked. The survivor laughed. It was not a sane laugh. They let us in, she said. They wanted us to see, to understand what they became. She grabbed Kethavel's arm with surprising strength. The humans did not just win the war, Navigator. They ascended. The torture and death they experienced pushed them beyond what any species has ever been. They unlocked something in their minds that was always there, waiting. Something put there by evolution or by something even older. Kethavel pulled free from her grip. What do you mean? They can reshape reality, the survivor said. Not with machines, with thought. They think something, and the universe makes it true. They wanted to punish their enemies, so their enemies became statues. They wanted to leave, so they created a place outside of normal space to live. They wanted to be left alone, so they built a barrier around their territory that keeps everyone out. Another survivor spoke up. He was lying on the floor staring at the ceiling with empty eyes. But we broke the barrier, he said. Our machines punched a tiny hole in it. We thought we were so clever. We thought we could slip in and steal what we wanted without them noticing. They noticed, the first survivor said. Of course they noticed. They see everything. They remember everything. And now the barrier is weakening. Kethavel felt cold fear spreading through his body. What do you mean weakening? The survivor pointed to a screen on the wall. It showed readings that Kethavel did not understand, But the pattern was clear. Something was changing. Something was moving. The humans sealed themselves away because they chose to, she said. They could have stayed. They could have ruled the galaxy. Instead, they left because they were afraid of what they had become. They were afraid of what they might do if they stayed angry. She looked at Keithval with her broken eyes. But they left a warning system, a protocol. If anyone ever threatened their space again, if anyone ever proved that the galaxy had not learned its lesson, the protocol would activate. What protocol? The awakening protocol, she whispered. We triggered it when we broke through the barrier. The humans are waking up. They are coming back to see what the galaxy has become. The station shook. Alarms began to sound. On the screen, Keithval could see the barrier between human space and normal space starting to shimmer and thin. We need to leave, Vormesh said. Now. They gathered the survivors who could walk and carried those who could not. The station was falling apart around them, reality cracking like ice under too much weight. As they ran, Keithval saw things through the cracks in space. He saw human territory beyond the barrier. Cities of light floating among engineered stars. Beings that had once been human but were now something greater, something that existed as much as thought as matter. And he saw them turning their attention toward the breaking barrier. Millions of minds, ancient and powerful, focusing on the tiny crack that the Shadow Council had made. They were not angry. That was the strange thing. They were curious and sad, and something else that Keithval could not name. They were disappointed. 3,000 years, a voice spoke directly into Keithval's mind. We waited 3,000 years hoping you would learn, hoping you would grow. But here you are again, stealing, taking, treating the universe like it belongs to you. Keithval stopped running. The others continued past him, but he could not move. The voice held him in place. What will you do? He asked aloud. Will you destroy us? The voice was silent for a moment. Then it answered, and the answer was the saddest thing Keithval had ever heard. We do not want to destroy you, Navigator. We have seen enough destruction to last forever. We are tired of pain, tired of loss. We left because we could not trust ourselves to stay without becoming the very monsters that created us. Then what? We will watch. We will wait. We will see if this tiny crack in our barrier spreads or heals. And we will hope, Navigator. We will hope that you will tell your people what you have seen, that you will teach them to be better, that you will give us a reason to believe that the galaxy deserves a second chance. The voice released him. Keithval ran for the shuttle, his mind spinning with everything he had learned. Behind him, the station collapsed into nothing. The crack in the barrier remained, a tiny wound in the fabric of space. Through it, the light of the human cities glowed like distant stars. They were watching. They were waiting. And the galaxy had one chance to prove itself worthy. The escape from human territory was a nightmare that Keithval would remember for the rest of his life. Reality broke around them as they fled. The ship passed through spaces that should not exist. They saw the past and future mixing together like water and oil. They witnessed echoes of the Dominion War playing out in the stars around them, human colonies burning, slave ships crossing the void, children crying for parents they would never see again. And then they saw the reckoning. It appeared before them like a vision painted on the fabric of space itself. Keithval watched as humanity changed. He saw billions of minds connecting across the galaxy, becoming one vast consciousness. He saw the moment when they reached out with their new power and touched their enemies. The Dominion fleet had been the largest military force in galactic history. 10 million ships, each one armed with weapons that could destroy planets. They had been preparing to finish what they started, to wipe out every last human in existence. The humans did not fight back with weapons. They did not need to. Keithval watched as the Dominion soldiers simply stopped. One by one, ship by ship, they froze in place. Their bodies turned to stone while their minds remained awake. They felt everything as they transformed. They experienced every second of their change from living beings to eternal statues. It took less than one galactic day. By the time the stars had completed a single rotation, the Dominion was gone. Their empire was erased. Their leaders were scattered atom by atom across the universe, conscious and suffering for every moment of their dissolution. And then the humans stopped. Kethval saw this moment clearly. He saw humanity standing at the crossroads, holding the power to unmake everything. They could have punished the entire galaxy, every species that had watched and done nothing, every government that had turned away, every individual who had seen human children sold as slaves and had not lifted a finger to help. They could have burned it all. Instead, they wept. Kethval felt their tears through the vision, tears of grief for what they had lost, tears of rage for what had been done to them, but most of all, tears of sorrow for what they had become. They had wanted only to live among the stars, to explore, to learn, to love and grow and build a future for their children. But the universe had taught them a different lesson. It had taught them that the gentle are destroyed by the cruel, that kindness is weakness, that the only way to survive is to become something terrible. So they had become terrible, and it broke their hearts. The vision faded. The ship burst out of human territory into normal space. Behind them, the forbidden zone glowed with its strange light, the crack in the barrier still visible like a scar that would not heal. Kethval collapsed in his chair. Around him, the crew sat in stunned silence. The rescued survivors from the Shadow Council's mission were huddled together, broken in mind and spirit. "Captain," Kethval said. His voice was barely a whisper. "What do we do now?" Vormesh did not answer immediately. She was staring out the window at the forbidden stars, her old face wet with tears. "We tell the truth," she finally said. "We tell everyone what we saw, what we learned. We make sure the galaxy understands what it created when it taught humanity to become monsters." Will they listen? I do not know, but we must try. As they set course for home, a final message came to Kethval. It arrived not through the ship's communication systems, but directly in his mind. A human voice, neither male nor female, ancient beyond measure, but gentle as a parent speaking to a child. "We see you, Navigator. We see your fear and your wonder. You came seeking answers, so here is the only one that matters. We were like you once. We wanted only to explore, to grow, to find our place among the stars. The universe taught us that kindness is not rewarded, that mercy is seen as weakness, that the gentle are consumed by the cruel. We could have become the cruelest of all. We chose instead to become a lesson. The forbidden zone is not our prison, it is yours. A boundary we maintain because we remember what we were, and we grieve for what we became. Go home, Navigator. Tell your people what you have seen. Teach them that the stars have long memories and that humanity's greatest act of mercy was choosing not to share the universe with those who taught us to be monsters. We are waiting. We are hoping. Prove us wrong about you." The message ended. Kethval was left alone with his thoughts as the ship traveled through the darkness toward home. He spent the rest of his life doing what the humans had asked. He wrote books about what he had seen. He gave speeches to governments and schools and anyone who would listen. He taught the true history of humanity, not as a warning of what to fear, but as a plea for what the galaxy could become. Some people listened, some did not. The Shadow Council tried to silence him, but other voices joined his. The survivors of the mission, broken as they were, added their testimony. The truth spread slowly but steadily across the stars. Kethval grew old. His scales faded from bright blue to pale gray, just as Captain Vormesh's had. He became an elder, respected and loved, known as the navigator who walked among the forbidden stars. On his last day, lying in his bed surrounded by family, Kethval looked up at the ceiling as if he could see through it to the stars beyond. "Are you still there?" he whispered. A warmth filled his mind, a presence vast and patient and kind. "We are still here, Navigator. We have watched you. We have seen what you have done. Did it matter? Did anything change?" The presence considered the question for a long moment. "Change is slow, Navigator. The galaxy is old and old habits die slowly. But yes, something has changed. More of your people speak of kindness now. More of them question the old cruelties. The crack in our barrier is healing, not growing. Will you ever come back? Perhaps, one day, when your galaxy has learned that strength is not found in domination, but in compassion. When kindness is seen as courage instead of weakness. When the stars remember not just our pain, but our hope. The presence grew warmer, like sunlight on Kethval's old face. You did well, Navigator. You helped to plant seeds that will grow for generations. You proved that one person who speaks the truth can change the universe. Thank you, Kethaval whispered. No, Navigator. Thank you. You gave us something we had almost forgotten how to feel. What is that? The presence seemed to smile, though Kethval could not say how he knew this. Hope. Kethval closed his eyes for the last time. Around him, his family wept. But somewhere beyond the forbidden zone, in cities of light floating among engineered stars, ancient beings who had once been human felt something they had not felt in 3,000 years. They felt that maybe, just maybe, the universe was learning to be better. And in the darkness between stars, the forbidden zone continued to glow with its strange light. A monument, a warning, a promise. The stars remembered. They would always remember, but now perhaps they could begin to hope.